All right, what's up, guys? We're back here with another movie review, and movie review, and today we're looking at 1982's The Dark Crystal. This is a mostly. This is an entirely animated. Well, it's not animated. It's live action, but it has no human actors in it. It's a hard to explain movie. It was created by Jim Henson, which actually, now I have watched this movie a long time ago, and I was about 6 when I first watched it. I never watched it again. But recently, the reason I'm doing this is because there is a new TV show on Netflix, a Netflix original, called The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance or something. And it's continuing off of this movie. So I wanted to go back. I went back and watched this movie because I wanted to watch it, and I guess I'm going to review it now. And I probably will review, when I do TV show reviews, I like to go season by season. And when I finish season 1, I'll probably review it. But right now we're looking at the film that started it all, which was 1982's The Dark Crystal. This movie was made by, the story was written by Jim Henson, which was also the creator of Sesame Street, probably his most famous work. Now, I watched Sesame Street when I was like 3 or 4, but I'm not really a buff on all this. I know there's a couple spin-offs of it, but I'm not really a buff on all the other stuff that he's done. But this was the one that really stuck with me because this is actually a really good movie. It doesn't feel like it was made by him because this is a lot darker than, like, Sesame Street is a learning show for kids, but this is like, it feels a lot like it's hard to explain. This is a lot darker movie, and this one actually has a story to it. Now, I will say, a lot of people would give this movie an A+. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This one's not getting an A+. It was okay. It was good. Hold on. I thought I heard someone calling for me. But no, this movie was good. It was just, I don't think it deserves an A or an A+. An A in general. Now, I'd probably give it around a B, but we'll decide that at the end of the review. So now let's talk about the plot of this movie. This movie is an hour and 33 minutes, and it's got that classic 80s feel. I mean, this is definitely an 80s movie. Unlike The Abyss, which did not feel like 80s. But that's weird. I've watched 90s movies that have felt like it was from the 80s, like Bride of Reanimator. But it's really weird. But this was from 1982, which was also the same year that The Thing came out, which is one of my favorites. Okay, what else? Okay. The plot. I watched this about 2 hours ago, so I'm thinking of where to start with this one. So it starts off with a narration, sort of, and it gives us the history behind the Dark Crystal. So there's a race of, I think they're called, okay, so there's a race of these vulture things, which you see on the cover here, a race of vulture things called Skykes, and I guess they're the bad guys, and they have this castle in the middle of the desert. And in this castle, they have the Dark Crystal. And the Skykes killed this race of Elflings, I think they're called. And that's who that kid is on the screen with the long hair. And in this movie, there's only him alive. And after his village was burned, one of the good guys are these ancient ones called the Majestics or whatever, and they took him in. But there's another one that shows up later. She's a girl, and she becomes the love interest character. And apparently, the girls have wings. The girls in the Elfling race have wings, but there's the Majestics, which are the ancient ones. Then there's the Skykes, which are the ancient bad guys. And then there's the Elflings, and then there's also a bunch of other random ass animals that are scattered throughout this movie. But the Skykes are trying to kill because the prophecy says that this Elfling will find the last shard of the Dark Crystal and repair the Dark Crystal, and then they will all die. Now, the thing is about the Skykes and the Majestics, there are about 10 of each. And each of them are connected to each other. So if one Skyke dies, one of the Majestics dies or whatever. And that's how it works. So then that narration's over, and we get pulled to our main character, which is... that Elfling on the cover. I don't even know if they're called Elfling. There's a lot of weird names in this one. So he's talking to, I guess he got taken in by the leader of them, and he's on his deathbed, and one of the Skykes leader, the oldest one of the Skykes, is on his deathbed. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. And they're both on their deathbed, and he tells them about that the prophecy says that you need to repair the Dark Crystal, whatever. Then that dude dies. And he so he goes on his journey because I'll be back. Alright, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, I find taking my dog out significantly more important in a movie review. So, that's just life. I do, in fact, have a life. So yeah, Dark Crystal, where were we? Okay, so he goes on this magical journey, and on his journey, he tries to find this old goat horn crazy ass woman that can take her eye out and look at shit, which really doesn't help at all. She just takes her eye out, puts it on a table, and then walks away. It's just like, can't you just put it in your head and then look around? Why do you gotta take it out? But he goes looking for this woman, and he gets caught up in these vines. I guess it's like a trap or something, and it's just defenses for her home. So she gets the fuck out of there and tells him that she has the shard. She just doesn't know which one it is. So he goes inside of her house, and she gives him a bucket of crystal shards, and there's 20 of them, and he's got to figure out which one is the shard of the crystal. Well, he plays his magical flute, and one of them shines purple, so he grabs that one. And then I feel like I need to mention this first. So the Skykes, they were having this battle because their king died. So new king needed to be chosen. So they had so this one guy that keeps going like this the whole movie. The Skykes look kind of like vultures, but he keeps going like this the whole movie. So that guy tried to take the king's scepter or whatever, and another guy decided to battle him for it, and he lost, so he got banished, and he starts following this kid. But in the meantime, the Skykes sent these giant beetle-like creatures after him to capture him. So They break into this old woman's house, and he manages to escape while the thing burns down. They end up catching the woman instead and bringing them to the Skykes. She gets all pissy. They lock her up. Um, then, let's see. So then he's out in the woods trying to figure out what the hell this crystal's for. And then he meets another elfling, and it's a female, and she's about his age. And the females have wings, so they can like fly and shit. And she's got like a cloak on, so she looks kind of like Robin Hood. So she meets up with him. They start becoming friends. She has this little dog creature, and we get to also see multiple other forest creatures in this. But then we get taken back to I can't remember their names, but the Skykes use them as slaves, and they get them out of the swamp. So this chick, instead of being taken by the wise ones, the elders, she was taken in by these slave creatures. These slave creatures took her in, and they're a race of people that just get... I guess the Skykes mind wash these people and then use them as slaves. So they are intelligent beings. So they raised her, and she takes him back to her town, and then the Beatles show up again. And I like to call these Beatles the Kool-Aid Man, because every time they enter a scene, they seem to like to burst through the fucking wall. Oh, yeah! It's just like, they do that about 2 or 3 times in this movie, and it's hilarious. So they do it again, and they burst in there, and then they end up catching a bunch of these slave people and putting them in like little cages on their back. And then the girl and the kid, the elflings, escape with the dog thing. And they escape, and they're going towards the Skykes castle or whatever. And I guess they get these like dog creatures with praying mantis legs. It's really fucking weird. And they start fighting these beetle thing, because this is right out in front of the castle. So now they're right out in front of the castle. In the desert, right in front of the Skykes castle. So they're fighting them off to take these cages off their back, and they manage to get it off, and all the slave creatures escape. And I guess they end up falling off the side of this cliff, but the elflings get saved because the female one has wings. So they sneak in from the underground tunnel part of the castle. So they sneak in there, and guess who shows up? The Skyke that was banished. The guy that keeps going, "Arr!" So he captures the lady and knocks out the male, and takes the lady to the king, the new king. And he takes her down to this basement area, and we learn that they take essence of different creatures, but they needed an elfling essence to make the king young again, so he can rule for a very long time. So they try to take her essence, but apparently this girl has the power to call animals, so all the animals save her. She gets up, escapes, and then the male elfling, ends up coming in here after he fights off some more of those beetle Kool-Aid creatures. And eventually we get to the climax of the movie in the holy room with the giant crystal in it. And he's got the crystal in his hand. There's all kinds of this shit where they're fighting over the crystal. He manages to jump on top of the crystal, and right before he shoves it in, he drops it. One of the Skykes tries to pick it up, but the girl elfling rescues it, throws it towards him, and then she gets stabbed. She doesn't die. It's a fake out death. But he rams it in there, and yeah, all the Skykes and the mystics, they're called mystics, I forgot. Not majestics, mystics. They get combined back together, and instead of the crystal being purple now, it's white. And apparently the reason it cracked is because there was an ancient race of elder ones that got too greedy, and it cracked. And apparently the elder ones consist they're half Skyke, half Mystic. So the races get combined together. And now the crystal is in the hands of the two Elflings. And in a movie. As I said, I wouldn't give this movie an A or an A+. It is an interesting work or piece for the creator of Sesame Street, and it is very impressive that he made something of this magnitude. And the designs for the Skykes or whatever are actually pretty good. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but they're pretty good. But this movie just doesn't feel... And 1982 was a good year for movies. This came out. The Thing came out. I think the first Poltergeist came out. Just a lot of really good movies came out. And of course, there was a Friday the 13th and a Nightmare on Elm Street that came out this same year. And I'm pretty sure another Halloween came out this year. But, goddamn. I'm going to have to give this movie a B. It was good. It was still good. It was good. I'm going to give it a B. I don't think it deserves an A+. I just don't think it does. It's just my opinion. It's not a bad movie. I just think it deserves a B. So yeah, The Dark Crystal. That was my review of The Dark Crystal, 1982, by Jim Henson, the creator of Sesame Street. And eventually, when I finish... Shit, I just dropped my phone, sorry. But eventually, when I finish the first season of Age of Resistance, the new TV show for this, I will review that. Now, coming up, I have been recently watching a TV show called Hell on Wheels, and I've finished season 1 and 2. The seasons are only 10 episodes long, so yeah, I'll probably review season 1 and 2 soon, possibly today, because they're fresh in my mind. And last night I just went to see It Chapter 2, so I'm going to go watch It Chapter 1 sometime this week, and I'll review that. So yeah, that's everything for the future. So remember to leave a comment, like, and subscribe.